Donald Trump acaba de sufrir otro golpe público a su ego. El premio Nobel que tanto deseaba se lo dieron a otra persona. Sí, Trump perdió otra vez. Y lo más irónico es que esta derrota tiene que ver directamente con Venezuela. No solo por quien ganó el premio, sino por lo que revela sobre por qué Trump jamás lo obtendría. Como era de esperarse, su reacción fue un auténtico colapso emocional y lo mismo ocurrió con su séquito MAGA, que entró en modo víctima otra vez. Un recordatorio rápido. Si les está gustando este tipo de videos, nos ayudaría mucho que le dieran al botón de me gusta, suscríbanse si aún no lo han hecho y comenten su opinión. El 98% de quienes nos ven todavía no están suscritos y juntos podemos hacer crecer a esta comunidad. Ahora sí, pasemos con la noticia.
In the Senate last night that largely went unnoticed, and I want to tell you about it. Trump's authoritarianism, which is growing in seriousness inside the United States, is now happening overseas as well. A lot of people haven't paid attention to this, but the president has essentially begun a war by taking down boats in the Caribbean with airstrikes that he claims are being operated by drug cartels. He has offered no evidence of who's in these boats. They might be members of drug cartels, but they could be civilians, they could be Americans. But B, and more importantly, the president has no authorization to just decide that he is going to use U.S. military power overseas without congressional authorization, without the consent of the public. Most of these strikes are in the Caribbean. They are off the coast of Venezuela. There's real risk that these strikes could draw the United States into a war with Venezuela, a war that nobody in this country wants. But again, the principle is probably what's most important. This is a president who just doesn't believe that he is subject.
¿Y este es el presidente de la paz? ¿El autoproclamado genio diplomático que merecía el Nobel? Trump ha mostrado una y otra vez no solo el desprecio por la ley, sino un orgullo infantil en violarla. Lo que llamaba autoridad presidencial es en realidad impunidad. Bombardear barcos sin pruebas en aguas extranjeras para alimentar una fantasía de un hombre fuerte. Mientras su política migratoria se derrumba, no es liderazgo, es terrorismo de Estado. Y mientras Trump fabrica guerras de utilería, quienes realmente arriesgan su vida por la democracia, como los venezolanos que enfrentan a un régimen autoritario, son los que hoy reciben el reconocimiento mundial.
We spent a day or two talking about the latest outrage, the latest attempt to destroy our democracy. And then we set that one aside and we talk about and work on the next one. And we don't see the cumulative impact of what it means to have the Department of Justice relentlessly pursuing legally the president's political opponents, what it means to have our media begin to look like state-run and state-owned media, what it looks like to have our troops being deployed all over the country to try to suppress dissent. What's going to happen here is not likely elections being canceled or a coup. What he's trying to do is to just suffocate the space that the opposition has to operate such that there's never enough oxygen for Democrats or any political opposition party to beat him. That's, what happened in Hungary. The political opposition party still exists there. The rules are just rigged so that they can never, ever prosecute their case. They can never win a national election. So when you look at everything he's doing together at the DOJ, at the FCC, at the Department of Defense, it is all designed to try to convince people to just stay quiet, to not show up for the protests, to not run for office, to not vote. That's how our democracy is destroyed. The elections still happen, but the same party wins election after election after election, and that party is Donald Trump's party, his family's party, a party increasingly of oligarchs who are making money off of this government.
Senator, I want to underscore that what you have done today in terms of laying out the connecting the dots, you are really shining a light on the roadmap that Donald Trump is laying out here. And I think that's important because I was just at an event earlier today here in Washington, D.C. I was in Denver this past weekend, and the folks that are, plugged into what we do every single day, they are very concerned. But by and large, many folks, they don't feel like it's necessarily a five-alarm fire, or they're like, when we get on the other side of this, not understanding that it's going to take work to get on the other side of this. Retribution is not a side note here for the Trump administration. It is the centerpiece. And the Insurrection Act that he's talking about is not just a suggestion. He is openly telling us that he is going to do it. And without any pushback, it is going to happen. And let's just be clear, National Guard troops are on their way to Chicago as we speak. The governor did not ask for them to be there. National Guard troops are attempting to be deployed in Oregon. The governor did not ask for them to be there. National Guard troops were deployed in California. The governor did not ask for them to be there. Have we slipped already into the authoritarianism? Is there a way out? I mean, give us your unvarnished thoughts here.
Well, listen, I mean, we are not on the verge of an authoritarian takeover. We're in the middle of it. Now, it's not too late. We haven't lost our democracy. But, you know, we sometimes like to think of the first term Donald Trump, you know, the bumbling White House that didn't seem to have any theory of the case from day to day. This is a very different White House, right? Stephen Miller and his gang, they have a plan. They have a plan that they are executing to transition our country from democracy to something fundamentally different, maybe even autocracy. And that's what I tried to lay out on the floor today, is how this plan is being operationalized every single day. But no, it is not a lost cause. Ultimately, what we know from history is that when a big enough portion of the population, the number's normally around 2%, show up to protests, are regularly engaged in peaceful civic action, enough sand gets thrown in the gears of the attempts to destroy the democracy that you end up saving it. So we have an opportunity in these elections this November to send a signal. We have an opportunity through the protests on October 18th to show the country and the world that we aren't lying down. So this is a serious moment. It's almost lost, but it's definitely not lost yet.
From this president, that any use of force that he condones will be protected.
Yeah, so I certainly am not knowledgeable enough about the interpretation of the Insurrection Act to know the answer to that question. But I think you're pointing out, you know, what is the most important underlying fact here. The president has already made it clear, whether or not he invokes the Insurrection Act, that if you commit violence in his name, you are going to be immunized, you are going to be excused, you're going to be let off the hook. Whereas if you even hint at violence, actually, frankly, if you even just criticize him publicly, that you are going to be met with the full force of the law, illegally, unconstitutionally. And so I think it is really important to anchor ourselves in that reality, that if you commit a violent act and you're doing it to help Donald Trump, you're going to get away with it, which is a signal.
La respuesta del comité fue diplomática, sobria y devastadora para Trump. Básicamente dijeron, no premiamos campañas mediáticas ni egos en busca de validación, premiaremos a quienes realmente defienden la libertad. Y eso fue suficiente para que la Casa Blanca de Trump se incendiara, porque apenas se anunció el premio, su equipo entró en crisis. Stephen Chung, su jefe de comunicaciones, publicó furioso que el comité eligió la política por encima de la paz. Y Trump, desde su red social, se autoproclamó merecedor del Nobel. El mismo hombre que ordena bombardeos ilegales, que amenaza a periodistas, que criminaliza la protesta y protege violentos, pretende que el mundo lo reconozca como símbolo de paz. Murphy lo dice con claridad. Ya no estamos ante la amenaza del autoritarismo, estamos viviendo dentro de él. Trump ha convertido las instituciones de Estado en herramientas personales, usa la fuerza militar sin autorización, manipula la justicia y ahora pretende legitimarse con premios internacionales que simbolizan justo lo contrario de lo que él representa. Lo peor es que mientras tanto millones de seguidores siguen creyendo que esto es firmeza, cuando en realidad es una demostración de debilidad y dependencia total del poder. El episodio del Nobel resume a la perfección quién es Donald Trump, un hombre que confunde la violencia con liderazgo, el control con autoridad y la propaganda de reconocimiento. Mientras una mujer arriesga su vida enfrentando una dictadura real, Trump exige aplausos por bombardear barcos y publicar mensajes egocéntricos. Y es precisamente esa diferencia lo que lo atormenta, porque el mundo ve coraje donde él solo ve competencia. Trump no perdió un premio, perdió la oportunidad de demostrar que aún entiende lo que significa la palabra paz. Si este análisis te resultó útil, no olvides suscribirte, deja tu like y comparte este video. Como dijimos al inicio, el 98% de quienes nos ven no están suscritos. Ayúdanos a crecer esta comunidad y llegar a los 1000 suscriptores. Nos vemos en el próximo Rumor de Estado.